While the eyes of the world have been focused on the Middle East over the past year, there's been little attention given to the region's Christian population, who continue to face relentless persecution and discrimination. In a new study by the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, it's revealed that violence and coercion have led to a dramatic 90% decline in the Christian population in areas under Hamas and Palestinian Authority control. In 1922, Christians made up 11% of the population in these regions. By 2024, that number has plummeted to just 1%. Key cities like Bethlehem have seen this erosion, with many Christians fleeing due to discrimination, forced conversions, and harassment. The exodus risks erasing Christianity from its birthplace, as fears retribution silences victims, leaving them without international support. So to help us better understand this critical issue, I'm joined in studio today by Elias Zarina. He's a co-founder and community manager of the Jerusalemite Initiative. It's a Jerusalem-based nonprofit organization that's dedicated to encouraging Arab-speaking Christians integrate better into Israeli society. Elias, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here.
Elias, especially as, you know, we're right in the middle of Christmas. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Thank you. Merry Christmas for you too, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What has contributed to this decline of the Christian community in the West Bank and in Gaza?
First of all, the harassment and the physical attacks on Christian families, on Christian sites like churches, and the harassment for the majority of the Christians that they are living inside the Palestinian territories. The problem in Bethlehem that the Christians not involved in any actions of the Palestinian Authority since the beginning. We are talking about starting from 1994. Until now, we are 2024, it's 30 years. The Christians, they are not involved in any actions.
So they're not considered a part of the Palestinian society?
Yeah. They are feeling as a minority with no rights. This is the bottom line of the life of the Christians in the Palestinian territories.
So can you tell me a little bit about some of the type of harassment that the Christians are facing?
The harassment and the violence, look, you just mentioned that you have your reports here. I indicate also a lot of reports that says that the Christians, they are living in a life that they have no right, no justice. And this is the most important thing for a human. And it's a basic of a human rights, that you are living in an environment that if you have any issue with your Muslim neighbor, there is no justice. This is the point. And you are feeling every day that they are looking at you as an alien. They don't provide you any opportunity to be part of the Palestinian Authority. And all the time, the pressure on the Christian leaders. So it's also a point, the political neglect. They are not involved in any actions again or in any key positions on the Palestinian Authority.
Who are harassing these Palestinian Christians?
The Palestinians, they are tribes. They are clashes. That they are living, each clash, each tribe in a specific area. And the law there, it's more a law of tribe. I give you an example. If you have any issue, again, with your neighbors, sometimes and most of the time, it's not going to the channel of the police and judgment and so on. It goes to a tribe law, which is there is a sheikh, there is like a command of the tribe that he sit and listen from the both sides, and he is the judge. We are talking about people, I respect all the people. We are talking about people that they are working as a farmers, or even they don't have any education. Sometimes they cannot read and write.
And these people are essentially taking the law into their own hands.
Exactly. This is what happened there. When you involve the police, even the police suggest for you to go to a tribe command and to solve this problem. And it takes us to a spot, to a place that, again, there is no justice. Even if you go with all all the paper, all the documents that it shows that it's your right, let's say, okay? They will not take anything like this in real. And they don't act to really solve this problem. They take it more like they are beside their people. Anything happened, anything will happen, we are beside our people. So if there is a Muslim and a Christians facing this judge, like 90% the Christian will lose this judgment.
So you're saying basically that the Christian population in the Palestinian territories essentially feels marginalized by both the Palestinian Authority,
Exactly.
the government,
it's marginalized.
who is, majority Muslim, and so they essentially feel alienated, whether it's, they're facing violence and intimidation, and that also spreads to political alienation.
Exactly.
And from what I understand from you, they're also forced to take on a specific narrative when it comes to that political alienation.
They are forcing the Christian leaders. We are talking about the Christian leaders like in social leaders and theological leaders like the head of the churches. All the time there is a pressure on the Christian community through those leaders to adopt the anti-Israeli, anti-Semitism narrative. And I will give you an example. This is the second Christmas since the 7th of October. This is the second year that there is no decoration on the Manager Square of the Nativity Church in Bethlehem. There is no festivals, there is no singing, there is nothing. They forced the Christians to adopt this narrative, and they forced them to stop celebrating the birth of the Jesus Christ.
So this is not a decision by the church in Bethlehem?
No, not at all. It's a pressure and a big pressure on those leaders. Last year, they decorated the Christmas tree on the Manager Square of the Nativity Church with the photos, with the pictures of I cannot say they told them shaheeds, okay, but in fact they are a terrorist, that they killed innocent people. They decorate the Christmas tree with those pictures of those terrorists that they killed innocent people, and they damage a big damage for the people.
How has this change affected the identity and the heritage of Bethlehem, which is considered the birthplace of Christianity?
It affects them so much. When you are a student that you get your education for 12 years in schools that belongs to a churches even in Bethlehem, the majority of the Christians in Bethlehem and even in East Jerusalem, they send their children to schools that belongs to the churches. Each church, they have their own school. So all those schools provide for their students the educational material of the Palestinian Authority, which is, there is a neglect for the Christian heritage inside these educational books. And it takes them to a spot to adopt all the Arab narrative, Palestinian narrative all the time. Even they don't mention any historical stories or historical sites inside their educational material, which is take the Christians far away from their religions, from their roots, from their history, from their heritage, and affect them so badly. This is why sometimes you see like Christians that they adopt the Palestinian narrative and they are struggling on the BDS movement. I don't blame them. They grow up in an environment that forced them all the time to take this narrative and to adopt it. The Palestinian Authority provide a fake history, which is focusing on the Islam and Arab nation and history. And this material, again, just take the Christians far away from their religions. If they back to their religion, they will back to their roots, they will understand that Jesus being a Jew.
You're an original Christian from Jerusalem.
Exactly.
When you see the Vatican showing the manger of Jesus, the nativity scene with Jesus wearing a keffiyeh,
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
Look, for me, what I believe that the leaders, the Christian leaders, especially the Pope, okay, that is dominating the Catholic Church around the world. When he adopts this narrative, he's taking the church to another place. He just mixed political and religion together. And for a religion leader, he should be like natural. He should be in the middle. As Jesus told us and learned us to ask for peace. But those actions for the Pope, he's not seeking a peace. He's seeking to make a pressure on the Israeli side that's been attacked on the 7th of October.
I can imagine that this failure by the authorities to act and react to protect its minorities, it surely affects the trust that Christians have in their protection, in their legal system.
Yeah. And that the untrust for the Palestinian Authority from the Christian community forced them to immigrate and to seek a better life for their children and for their future. If you are living in Bethlehem or in the West Bank as a minority, there is no other minorities in the West Bank. It's only the Christians. There is no Druses, there is no Yazidis. The only minority in the West Bank, it's the Christian community. When you are facing again and again a harassment, physical attacks, abduction, the girls being abduction. I used to learn in Bethlehem University. I get my first degree in hospitality industry. And on my last year in university, my cousin just started to learn there. During the first year, she get in a connect with a girl, with a student, that she's from the Haitian refugee camp in Bethlehem. And they've been like sisters, working on assignments together, learning together, hanging out together.
Friends, small friends.
Yeah. One time I get a phone call from my family, come back home now. I didn't understand, but from the voice, I just understand that there is a big issue. So I figure out that my cousin being abducted from the university, her best friend, she just poisoned her in a drug in her Nescafe on the cafeteria of the university. And they act like she unconscious, she get unconscious. And she called her brother to come to take her to the hospital. And we find in the end that she's in the refugee camp, in the Haitian refugee camp. They converted and forced her to convert to Islam. And from that time, we don't know anything about her. We used, as all the minorities, we used to ask the help from the Palestinian Authority. We went to the police station, we made a report, and I'm sure after we just get out, or they throw it, or it's in the drawer until now.
And how long ago was this?
It was in 2006.
And since then, you've never seen your cousin again?
We don't know anything about her.
Wow.
This is one of the stories that happened like most of the time.
And so they abduct and they harass, they abduct these Christian women in the Palestinian authorities.
It's
to
a sexual abuse,
Islam?
it's a harassment, it's abduction, it's to force people, Christian people, to the Islam, or people that they convert from Islam to Christianity, they even been killed and harassment and so on. So this is the situation in the West Bank. And what happened for me in 2006 make me to change my mind 180 degrees. I've been part of the Popular Front Palestinian Liberation student movement in University of Bethlehem. Mm-hmm. I've been involved in this movement, as the student movement, so well. And in that time, I believed that I have a backup, I have a friends.
You felt like you had a Palestinian identity and you were part of a nation.
I adopt at all at that time the Palestinian narrative at all. And I believe in this narrative even. I believe in this. So what happened to me, I make a phone calls at that time when my cousin just abducted from the university. I came to the entrance of the refugee camp. Before I just make a phone calls, and I called my best friend that we've been together for 4 years in the university. But when I came to the entrance of the refugee camp and I saw my best friend came with his weapon, with his M16, and at least there's another 3 or 4 guys that they are carrying weapon. At that time, I felt like they're coming to help me. This night, I will get back my cousin to their house, to their father and mother, to their parents, to their family. I just crossed the street and coming to hug my best friend, to thank him that he's coming to stand with me. He just put his M16 in my chest. He told me in those words, Elias, she's now Muslim. She's one of us now. There is nothing for you to do in this refugee camp. If we are not being friends, I can shoot you now. And this is what happened for me. All my world just collapsed at that time. I saw a black screen. I couldn't just stand up for a minute. I just crashed on the street. But what happened for me on the entrance of this refugee camp just made me just change all my mind 180 degrees. I start to learn the Bible. I start to learn the real history of the Holy Land of Israel. And I wanted at that time to effect on my community, just to make the awakeness for them, to wake them to the reality of our history as a Christians. Jesus came for the Jewish people. He being a Jew. The neglect for the Christians from the Palestinian Authority forced them to immigrate from Bethlehem, especially Bethlehem. Because, again, they have no rights there. They cannot live freely. They cannot celebrate their holidays. They forced them even to, again, the Christmas tree decorated by photos of terrorist attackers. So this is the fact about Bethlehem. And the Palestinian Authority make a pressure in the international media also to hide those stories.
And this is happening, these abductions and enforced conversions by armed Islamists against Christian women. It's happening in the West Bank, but it's also happening in Gaza.
It's happening in Gaza, double maybe. Or not a triple. I believe maybe it's a double or a triple. What's happening in Gaza for the Christians? A lot of Christians facing a fear from Hamas. And I've been involved since the beginning of the war to deliver them first aid and to deliver for them food and all what they need. 2 times the trucks been kidnapped by Hamas. All the first aid that was going to the Christian community, that there are only 600 Christians in all Gaza.
There are reports of significant economic and legal discrimination, not just persecution against Christians in those PA-controlled areas. How does this impact their daily lives, their ability to sustain a livelihood, to make money, to provide for their families?
And again, the Palestinian Authority, which is belong to one movement or one organization, which is Fatah, they own all or the majority of the businesses in the West Bank. It's not only the Christians that they are persecuted or took them far away from the business life in the West Bank. It's anybody that is not belongs to the Palestinian Authority or Fatah. You should be part of those organizations, the Palestinian Authority or the Fatah, to get involved and to get
recognition.
To get the recognition and to take a part of the business in the West Bank.
So essentially, if you want to be able to provide for your family, you have to make a political,
Exactly.
you have to align yourself politically.
You need to have those connection with the leaders of Fatah or leaders of the Palestinian Authority.
I want to turn to your childhood. You are a Christian. You grew up in the Christian quarter in Jerusalem, the original Christian quarter. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like growing up?
Look, to born and to raise in the old city of Jerusalem, it's like to live in a small world of the whole world. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about. You see all the nation since you are a child. You listen for all the languages from all over the world. A lot of pilgrims, a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists. So you see your life that you are living in a place that all the nations come to visit you. And it makes you like to be part of this ancient Jerusalem. I'm until now feeling that I'm like a part or a stone in this magnificent city and a holy city for all religions. When you hear the bells of the church, along with the mosque prayer, and with the Jewish people just praying shacharit. So this mixture just makes you and make you from inside more stronger and makes you that you want also to affect and to explain this special life that you lived to deliver it to the people.
Can you tell me a little bit about, because it's Christmas, tell me a little bit about some of your most special memories of Christmas in the Christian quarter in Jerusalem?
The special thing in the Christian quarter that all the families, all the shops, they decorate the decoration of the Christmas starting from the end of November.
Tell me about life for Christians here in Israel, and how would you describe their situation and their role within Israeli society?
Look, while you are afraid on the West Bank and Bethlehem from the backlash from any actions you made there, in Israel you feel like you are a free person. There is no pressure on you as a Christians at all. This is the most important thing for the life, that you have opportunity also to be involved in all the sectors in the Israeli government or organizations or so on. You have the right to send your CV and you can be accepted for jobs and the positions that they are key positions also. We have on the Christian community in Israel like Judge George Kara. He was the supreme judge in the Supreme Court in Jerusalem, and he been also the supreme advocate for the elections of the Knesset, the 20th elections of the Knesset. We have hospital managers. We have even Johnny Sruji, he's number 2 in Apple company. We have a lot of individuals that been involved and integrated on all the sectors in Israel. We cannot see those things happening on the West Bank, unfortunately.
You mentioned these Arab-speaking Christians here in Israel that are very much integrated into society. They're judges, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're nurses, and it goes on and on and on. Tell me a little bit about the work that you do with the Jerusalemite Initiative, which focuses on integrating these Arab-speaking Christians more into Israeli society. What are the main challenges that community, your community, faces when it comes to social and economic integration?
Look, first of all, I should mention that the Christian community in Jerusalem want to integrate on the Israeli state and the Israeli society also. They are looking forward all the time just to integrate, but they need tools. They need to provide them all what they need to integrate. And here I mentioned the Hebrew language courses. We provide in the Jerusalemite Initiative a free Hebrew language courses for the Christian community in Jerusalem. They have a virtual barrier between them as Christians and the Israeli Jewish population, because they don't know really to speak the Hebrew language. And here I blame the churches in Jerusalem, and I blame the schools that belongs to those churches, that they adopt and they provide for the Christians in East Jerusalem the material and the educational books of the Palestinian Authority, which is full of anti-Semitism, full of anti-Israeli, and it's adopting the history and the fake history about the Holy Land. They adopt the narrative of the Islamic and the Palestinian nation history, which is in the most, it's fake, it's really fake. It's not providing even 20% of the truth. And this is why the community in Jerusalem needs NGOs to work for them, to integrate them as soon as possible. And they need attention. They don't have any attention. And unfortunately, in Israel, the state of Israel looking for the relation between the Christian community and between the state, like if the situation and the connection, it's good with the churches, the leader of the churches, it's fine and it's good. So it means that also the community is good. But there is a gap, there is a vacuum between the Christian community and the leaders. Unfortunately, the leaders of the churches, they should be confirmed from Israel, from the Jordanian, and from the Palestinian Authority. So if one of those three statehoods don't confirm the patriarch, he cannot be a patriarch, let's say, of the Greek Orthodox Church, or he cannot be a patriarch of the Catholic Church. He should be accepted and confirmed by the Jordanian, the Israeli, and the Palestinian Authority. And all the time, the Palestinian Authority make a pressure and use this tool that we will not confirm you, we can kick you out, so you should adopt our narrative.
So there's political pressure for these Christian leaders, for them to be able to be elected or chosen to lead the Christian communities in Jerusalem. They have to, because they're nominated by, like, as you mentioned.
It's dominated by the Palestinian Authority and the Islamic narrative. We believe in a state of Israel. We believe that we are living in a democracy here. And it's the only democracy even in the Middle East. I know all the minorities, communities so well. I learn about all the minorities, especially during ISIS on 2010 and what happened for the Christians in Iraq, in Syria and Lebanon, the Coptic in Egypt. So when you get deep inside, you see that I'm as a minority, I'm not a minority in Israel. I have all the rights like any Jew here. But what you are seeing in the other side, in the other hand, that the Christians that they are living in those countries that I mentioned, they have no rights. It's the same what's happening on the Palestinian Authority territories. We believe that we are living in a democracy. We are living in a state of Israel. We have the right of worship. We have a right for everything, for everything. I can just stand out here in Jerusalem and shout, I'm against Israel. I will not be even jailed for these actions, because you have the right to speak in Israel.
The freedom of expression.
Exactly. So the community should be like one community, not separate community. And here I blame the head of the churches. They don't take actions, and they've been forced from the Palestinian Authority to adopt their narrative, but they are not working for the interior issues for the community. In order to make the Christian community one community and to be part of this country, also to serve this country, I'm encouraging the youth to serve the IDF, the police. If you are not involved, you cannot impact.
How do they react when you encourage them to be more involved in Israeli society, to serve in the IDF, to serve in the police? How do the youth Christians react?
In the beginning, it was really like there is a fear. They do want to integrate, they do want to serve in the IDF, but they have the fear from the reaction from their neighbors. And here I was struggling in front of Ministry of Defense, just to get for the Jerusalemite community soldier that they are serving in the IDF. Each soldier in Israel, he should serve 3 years on the army. We as a Christians, we are volunteering. We are serving
because it's not mandatory service.
It's not mandatory. We are as a volunteers. So I was struggling in front of the Ministry of Defense. Just those guys, when they come back to visit their families, they should take off the uniform because they are living in a mixed neighborhood, with the Muslims and the Arabs. So it takes a while for the Ministry of Defense to understand, because the law in Israel, when you are serving the 3 years, you should be in your uniform. And if you are carrying a weapon, it's your personal weapon, you should keep it all the time with you. So in the end, we get for those guys a permission from the Ministry of Defense that they can back to their houses in a civilian wear, not with the IDF uniform.
So they're able to contribute to the IDF, be part of the IDF, but because of the fear retaliation that they'll face when they go home to their neighborhoods in East Jerusalem.
Again, they are afraid from the reaction for their neighbors. They are afraid to burn their houses. Even they are living in Jerusalem. There is a lot of actions against the Christians from the Muslim community and unfortunately also from the ultra-Orthodox community. Those people, they need education. They need to get educated about to accept the other, about building bridges, about to love the other. This is the point here.
So unfortunately, just so I understand correctly, you're saying that even though these Arab-speaking Christians in Jerusalem are technically Israeli citizens, they are very much living out of fear from retaliation from the Palestinian Authority.
All the time. The retaliation, it's not only in the West Bank. It's also in East Jerusalem. I don't believe in East and West Jerusalem, okay? But in fact, there is East and West Jerusalem. And the Palestinian Authority dominating all the organizations on the east side of Jerusalem. There is no accountable on the Palestinian Authority. And this issue, it takes the Christians to feel all the time that there is no life for us as a Christians on the West Bank. We should leave. And this is why you see the community is dwindling and shrinking, and the percentage of the Christians on the West Bank going down and down each year. When Israel controlled the West Bank, especially Bethlehem, I'm talking before Oslo Agreement, before 1993, 1994, the Christian population was around 77 up to 79%. Nowadays, after 30 years of a Palestinian Authority, dwindling to less than 8%. The Palestinian Authority said it's around 12%. I believe it's much less. It's around 8% only. I know from my university and from my school, a lot of students that I used to study with them that they are not here. They disappeared. When I ask what happened with George or what happened with Mike, they immigrate. They are living or in Canada, Australia, United States, and especially the South America. From Bethlehem, especially from Beit Jala, which is also next to Bethlehem in the West Bank, there is around 250,000 from Bethlehem that they are living in Chile, in South America.
Wow.
And unfortunately, they are adopting also the Palestinian narrative.
So even though that they're fleeing Palestinian Authority persecution, they're still adopting the narrative? How do you explain that?
It's a struggle between me and my primos, my cousins, okay, in Chile. I have a first relative from my family, and I have like maybe 2,000 from my family that they share the same family name, okay, that they are living in Santiago in Chile. I'm struggling with them all the time. When their grandfathers immigrate from the Holy Land, it was during the Ottoman Empire and the beginning of the British Mandate. It's much before Israel. So you are not refugees. You don't kick out by Israeli and they force you to immigrate. Your grandfathers just escaped from this land, from the Ottoman Empire. They persecuted, they took people to the army and they've been killed and so on. So how come you adopt the Palestinian narrative? When you go deep inside, you figure out that there is also a pressure from the Palestinian Authority embassy in Santiago in those community.
Do you feel like since October 7th, Israel's Christian community and Jewish communities have become closer since they're facing essentially the same struggles?
I agree with this point. And not only the minorities in Israel, they are more integrated and more want to save this land. Me as a Christian, and this is what I told all the Christians that they want to serve the army, to be soldiers on the IDF. We are fighting to save our churches. We are fighting to save our houses. The radical Islam, for them and for their narrative, the Christians and the Jewish, they should be killed and disappeared and wiped from this land. So we are sharing the Jewish people the same issue.
Same faith.
Yeah, the same faith and the same problem.
I want to thank you very much for joining me today to talk about a very important topic,
thank
especially
you, Sarah,
this time of year.
Me here. God bless you.
God bless you
and
too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How do I say Merry Christmas in Arabic?
Milad Majid.
Milad Majid. Okay,
Milad
so Milad
Majid.
Majid.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Elias.